One, we are just a little bit behind. That's because we were having our own private chat. So I am honored as well to have my co-host, Dr. Claudia Albers. Hello, Dr.
Hello.
Albers. And we have joining us tonight Scott Sion, who is a big supporter and fan of the Philosopher and Physicist Hour, or Physicist Philosopher, all depends. And we have Scott has an announcement to make, and I think it's going to be very positive. I think for our community, and I think for the opportunity to continue to get out. I just want to say very quickly hello to all the moderators, Claudette, Christy. And anyway, so Scott, tell us what you got going, my friend.
Well, I've joined forces, about 6 weeks ago with a fantastic group of people. The group is called March for America. And I think it was about 2 years ago, they were formed. And this was going back based on the Donald Trump campaign back in 2016. And everything has kind of blossomed into something fantastic. And the people that I'm now working with are just absolutely amazing. And they come from all different professional walks of life. And we are now in production with our website. And our website is going to be based on truth, news from around the world on many, many different subjects, just not politics, just not space, but everything happening on our planet today. Number two, the big censoring issue. And I'm sure you know and understand how YouTube censors me and so does Facebook. And they do the same thing to Dr. Albers. They have literally crushed our YouTube channels over the course of the last 2 years. And we have a fantastic group of people. And one of them, her name is Kim Brooks. She's absolutely fantastic. She is a web developer and a marketing executive. And she's actually building our website. And a few months ago, Vimeo built us our own video package. Now, this video package will be instituted into our website. We'll be able to do live streaming. We'll be able to actually issue people their own channels on our website. So it's almost going to be similar to what Mike Adams, the health ranger, was doing with Real.video. That's kind of like a YouTube platform. This is going to be something totally different. He has to go by these strict guidelines with that type of a platform. This is going to be owned and operated by our website. And we already instituted the name www.mfamediagroup.com. We are about 2 to 3 weeks away from kicking this off. We're going to have articles that will be written by writers. We're going to have reports, similar to what CNN invoked a few years ago, but they really never followed up on it. So we have members from around the United States in all 50 states, and we're going to be acquiring other members from around the world. And I'm hoping that all of our Planet X News and Dr. Albers followers, as well as yours, join in.
Absolutely.
This program that I'm trying to work on, and I've been working night and day on it, but this is going to be, well, let's just say this is going to be like a blessing for people that are in truth media that are constantly getting shut down, their channels deleted by YouTube, or their Facebook pages terminated by Facebook and Twitter. So we're not going to be censored. This censorship is a huge problem with getting information out there to people that want to listen.
Absolutely.
So this is what we're going to be doing. And I would say probably, 2 to 3 weeks. Kim's been working, day and night. I've been working day and night on a lot of different avenues behind the scenes. And we have our new Facebook page up, MFA Media Group. It's on Facebook. You can just plug it in your search engine and check it out. We would appreciate it if everybody follows us, likes the page, and share our articles because they are from a very wide variety of subject matters. So
Excellent.
hopefully in the near future, we put together these public speaking engagements. I'd like to maybe kick this off sometime in 2019. We'd like to invite you to join us. Maybe we'll kick this off in Denver. You're not too far from there. And it will also allow us to, do a pay-per-view.
That's
We're
pretty
also
cool.
we're also coming out with a brand new app that will give people the opportunity to have all of this news and media right at their fingertips. So we're working on a lot of things, and this is pretty much geared to not being censored and getting the information out to the people that want to hear it, for the people that actually have the right to hear it.
A non-algorithm program.
Absolutamente.
Wow. AI is going to target your ass.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And we are well prepared for it.
Yeah. In fact, I was talking on my live show at noon today that there was a story about the algorithm that runs YouTube.
Uh-huh.
And you can either piss it off or you can be in its favor. And it's real interesting. Apparently, it's very sensitive. So
I know.
I'm going, well, I've dated some women like that, and that wasn't any fun. So listen, send me the link to that, and I'll make sure to put it down there and in the information section. And what was the website again?
www.mfamediagroup.com.
That's pretty easy. I can remember that.
Yeah, we have, I designed some shirts for us already. And we're also going to have, let me turn my cell phone around. It's making my face glow. We're also going to have a survival store. It will be a link on our website for people that are interested in emergency supplies, things of that nature, because look at the condition that we're in right now on the East Coast.
By the way, how bad is that? I keep on hearing the fear porn, but how bad is it really there?
In Pittsburgh yesterday, it started to get really, really bad. I did some eye reports on the scene down along the Monongahela River and the one of the locks and dams. And then I went down there early this morning when the torrential rains just really, really picked up. And the water had actually crested over all 5 gates. It was now at equal level.
And the river runs right downtown.
Yes, this is one of the only rivers in the world, the Monongahela, that runs north. Now, all of this water comes from the Laurel Highland Mountains, which is south of me. And these mountain ranges, they're pretty high. They're not real jagged and steep, but a lot of water pours down out of those mountains into these other small streams and tributaries, and then all hell breaks loose and it all flows into the rivers. So we've had a tremendous amount of flooding throughout the entire Pittsburgh area, all 4 or 5 counties. And I know West Virginia had to get hammered because that storm system was coming up from the south. It was a steady stream. We're still getting rain right now, so we're hoping to get a break in that, maybe sometime tomorrow. But I've got some pretty incredible footage, right at the bottom of our hill this morning. Excuse me, when I went to leave, water was rushing down the street. I could have put a raft on the pavement and I could have been whisked away. Wow. So it's pretty bad. I have one good friend of mine. By 5 o'clock this afternoon, he had, no lie, 5 feet of water in his basement. 5 feet.
That's a bummer.
Down at the local marina, there were a few boats that had sunk. I videotaped one small boat that was already sunk down in the water. And the river is moving very, very rapidly. And the problem is, again, all of this water comes down out of the mountains and it literally just hits the Monongahela River, the the Allegheny River, and it flows right down into downtown Pittsburgh at the point. Those two rivers flow into the Ohio. The Ohio River flows all the way down into the Mississippi and then into the Gulf of Mexico. So state of emergencies all over the area. They've already issued one in my area. The big problem is our ground is so saturated now. Come next weekend, when the remnants of Hurricane Florence are supposed to come right up from underneath and hit us again.
Well,
so
let's hope that doesn't materialize, but it certainly looks like it.
Yeah, I've been nonstop studying the weather and all of my weather charts, and from what I see, I mean, it's definitely going to happen. We are going to see wide scale destruction on the East Coast. There's just no doubt about it. It's a shame because, you know, you're looking at millions and millions and millions of people east of the mountains, east of the Appalachian Mountains. They are just going to get crushed. And there's beautiful neighborhoods and beautiful towns and cities, and they are going to get crushed. And then up here in the Northeast, I mean, we're going to get battered once again. And from what I've been seeing, this huge high pressure that's going to be traveling right over Ohio and Pennsylvania, it's actually going to hold that storm right there. It's going to hold that storm over North Carolina and Virginia and the surrounding states for about 4 to 5 days.
Well,
yeah, this is
for a miracle.
I mean, this is just like last summer.
Yeah.
With Hurricane Harvey in Houston.
Yep.
You know, that was a very, very suspicious hurricane. It kind of traveled back out into the Gulf and then went in for the kill, you know, the very next day. And, you know, I have my suspicions. I'm not going to go into all of that conspiracy right now, but I've been watching these hurricanes and going back into the early spring. I warned everybody that I had a really, really good idea that this was going to happen, but later in the hurricane season, and we still have 60% of the hurricane season to go through. So
all I can say is maybe the cold will come down early.
Well, you know, our temperature went from 88 degrees to 58 degrees in a matter of a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty big, significant drop in temperature. Matter of fact, Dr. Albers, she busted out her winter coat already.
Yes, I did.
It's refreshing.
My rain boots.
Yeah, she was all ready to go, you know, cruising in the tundra.
Well, you know, I love the fall.
I don't like the cold.
Oh, well, well, Claudia, it may get rather interesting for you this winter.
Yes, I'll just have to dress up. That's what I do.
You know, I say have plenty of tea and a good book. But you write books.
I love that idea.
Well, Scott, this is, we'll support that here. Definitely. I think it's an excellent idea. I think censorship is just, it's oppression. And, you know, anyone who studies history, we're following a very succinct roadmap that's been done before and it's being done again. So,
oh yes, it is. It's being done on a wide scale, and you know, as you mentioned in the very beginning with these algorithms, this artificial intelligence. I mean, there's no doubt. You know, they do it to a lot of people in this so-called labeled truth community.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's a shame, but I consider it to be just one of the battles in this war. And that's exactly what it is.
Well, it is a war. By the way, I just want to allow me to pull this up, folks. We have a international audience here, and Claudia and Scott, we actually had someone from South Africa make a video and wanted to show us that they are chemtrailing even in the wilderness in South Africa.
Yeah, in fact, I first saw chemtrails. I lived just outside Johannesburg.
Yes, you
And
did.
I first saw chemtrails in South Africa in 2016. I had not seen them before then.
Interesting. So that's, yeah, well, apparently they're hammering them down there. And I just want to thank our listeners that are in South Africa and all around the world. Send us your videos, send us your pictures. And I try to send, those that look really interesting to Dr. Albers, but respecting her time, because the woman is always writing.
Yes, I am. I've actually been very busy writing an article on the interstellar medium and what's going on there. So I've been reading a lot of papers, astrophysics papers.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the one I've been writing now. I actually wrote 3 articles in preparation for this one, building up the information that I wanted, so I could describe what's going on in the interstellar medium. But basically what it shows is that the Planet X system is much larger than we even thought, and it has surrounded the whole solar system. In fact, the local interstellar cloud is basically the Planet X system, and that's why it's so hot.
Very interesting that can you see the screen here, Claudia?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So tonight, I don't know what's on your East Coast, if y'all have clear skies or not, but tonight, if you have a binocular.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. No stargazing tonight. Well, for those who can, all around the world, look between midnight and dawn. To the east, go up about 40, 35 degrees off a horizon, and you will see our comet right here coming in, Comet 21P.
Yeah.
So lots of more comets. Now, Claudia, I want to get more into this because I pulled up some headlines for us to talk on.
Yes.
I think, and Scott, I'd like to get your take on this as well. This kind of really, when I saw this, I wanted to send it to you, but I wasn't in a place to send it to you. This is incredible. Do you see this? Did you see this story?
Yes.
Yeah, interstellar travel breakthrough, new material to speed spacecraft to
134 million miles an hour, folks.
Very fast.
And what they have done is that it is a form of silica. And what they've been able to do, how they came about this, I just thought you would find this very interesting, Dr. Albers, is that it's sheets, and it begins to work in propulsion to solar cells.
Interesting.
So I just thought this was incredible. I mean, if we have material now that can begin to hit these kinds of speeds, this is incredible.
Yeah, the problem with solar sails is that you pass an asteroid belt or anything like that, and there goes your solar sail.
Yeah.
Very flimsy.
Well, this is, like I said, it's incredible. So
it is that it's wonderful. I had a colleague when I was at the university that specifically worked in spacecraft propulsion systems.
Interesting. My neighbor works for Lockheed Martin. I won't say what he does, but yeah, there's some stuff going on, folks. Here's one I just thought was interesting. Boeing has a patent for a plasma force field.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Of course, the technology for it would have been there a long time ago. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in the science fiction movies.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. And, if any of you out there know anything about the SSP, the Secret Space Program, I mean, they've had these abilities of this hyper speed with their spacecraft for many, many years now. But there's a big difference between the Secret Space Program and the boys in blue at NASA. See, the boys in blue at NASA they're still playing with Tinker toys while the SSP is using hardcore alien technology. That's a fact.
Yeah.
You know, some people may not want to believe that. They may think, though, you're crazy. Where are you getting this information? But the information is out there, folks. It is now being disclosed.
Well, I found this very interesting that they have now they can actually use energy to heat the air into plasma.
Well, a plasma is basically ionized gas, and well, they want to use heat, usually use an electric field, but I guess you can use, in fact, one of the articles I've just written is about that, how heat will cause atoms to become ionized.
Interesting.
Yeah, basically heat is photons as well. That's what I've discovered from observing the stellar cores. They're basically different forms of energy that a photon turns into. One is mass, one is gravitational energy, and the other one is heat.
Yep. Well, I just thought you would find that interesting. I found it interesting. Here's one.
Yes.
So I had a couple of emails come in, and I don't know what recently was out there, but apparently they have now recalculated our position, and the fact that in this article it says that, according to this article, that we were actually part of the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy at one time. And this one here, you see where it puts us right here, right?
At the edge.
They're telling us right here, but I have something right here that says we're right there.
I know. So basically they're not sure where we are.
Exactly. This is you know, this is almost like the Mandela effect. I brought this up in late 2016, and I brought it up again in 2017. And I remember my Earth space science class. I even remember my Earth space science teacher's name. And we talked about this, and these diagrams were in our book. And it put us at the outer fringes of the Milky Way galaxy. And now we are kind of a little bit further inward.
We're halfway towards the galactic core.
Exactly. Yeah. But here's the thing. If you try to go back and you try to search for those old photographs, those old writings, those old reports of where we are positioned in the Milky Way galaxy, it seems that they have been washed away from the internet.
Well, Dr. Albers, I'm a simple man. I read, and I have a mind, therefore I am, I think. I want to postulate something to you because you are the physicist and you are the teacher here. But logic says to me that if we were out here at one time, as they thought, and suddenly now we have moved nearly halfway to the galactic core, could it not be that space would be hotter than it would be if you were on an extension of an arm of the Milky Way?
Well, not necessarily. I think it will be hotter where there is more dust. The thing is, we couldn't have moved that much in just a few years. There is no way. What it means is that they just don't know where we are in the galaxy. They probably don't even know where the center of the galaxy is. That's the problem.
Well, that's your problem.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with her on that. You know, these scientists around the world, you know, especially the ones that take the big payoffs, you know, they say anything. You know, they want us to believe that, you know, they can see brown dwarf stars 25 light years away. They could detect ice formations on them. They can see weather patterns on these stellar objects. You know, I just have a hard time believing mainstream science now. But
well, if we take their calculations, folks, we've moved 50,000 light years.
Yeah, I mean that's just impossible. That would mean we'd be moving much, much faster than light.
All I'm that's why we're discussing it, because this is what gets out there, and this is what begins to get people, I think, a little more freaked out.
The thing is, when you realize they don't know much, when you realize that they say that planetary nebula are created by stars that are dying, when we have learned from the stellar cores what dead stars look like, dead stars do not have the strength, the energy to produce light. How do they produce a supernova then? How do they continue to emit light? The planetary nebula is produced by a young star that has the strength to have a lot of solar wind. It has to be a young star with lots of energy. So it's the exact opposite of what astrophysics theory believes it is. So what the stellar core showed us is that the way the universe works is the exact opposite of what they believe it works, of how they believe it works.
Well, that's why we have you here. And this is what really got me to the thinking on the fact that as the dust becomes obviously much more interactive as it gets closer to the galactic core, I thought, well, it seemed like it would also get hotter. And I don't know, but
yeah, definitely, it's likely that the surrounding the interstellar dust, the interstellar cloud there is hotter. But what I think is happening is we are within a huge bubble. This bubble is something like, well, the local interstellar cloud is 30 light years across. But that's 20,000 times larger than our solar system. That's how large it is.
It's big. It's very big.
Yeah. So a galaxy is huge. We only occupy a tiny, tiny little, we're a little speck. We're not even visible from above the galaxy. Our solar system is tiny.
I wanted to pull this up. As you know, this was just recently put out on Saturn, which is a very strange planet. Claudia, could we talk about how it is that you can have in a sphere the hexagon formation?
This has to do with the symmetry of the magnetic fields. Basically, what we have is quantization on a macroscopic scale of the fields. So, for example, with an electron in an atom, it only occupies certain orbits because the wavelength associated with the electron has to fit that orbit. But it seems that this does not just work on a microscopic scale. It's not just electrons that are quantized. It's also planets and the fields that they generate. That's why we then have these symmetric patterns.
Yeah, it's
to do with the fields themselves that are quantized, and you only get certain allowed values. And so you end up with frequencies or wavelengths that can only have a certain value, and you end up then with symmetry like this. This looks pentagonal, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And no one talks about what's going on right here at the vortex. That looks to me to be, am I wrong in the perception? It's almost like we would see as the water would drain down a bathtub.
Exactly. This is a gravitational vortex. Remember, you always get the three fields working together. Where you have a magnetic field, you have a gravitational field in there. And when you have a gravitational, you have an electric field, because the gravitational field always sets up an electric field in the opposite direction.
Have y'all noticed this? Yeah, and at first I thought it was a camera anomaly. I don't think it is.
Mm-mm.
Look at this object that appears here, and it's got caught up in here. Look at that.
Yeah, that looks scary.
Doesn't it? It looks like it was a ship or something, and it's like, oh crap.
Is
Yeah,
this,
I
see
see
that?
that.
You see it?
Yeah.
that's amazing. That looks like a spacecraft.
That's what my thought was. And I mean, it's clearly going into this vortex. So it defies. I've been studying a lot of some of the
Well,
ancient.
Saturn is a huge planet.
Yes.
Yeah, massive.
I am actually.
It's actually not a planet. You know that Saturn
It's a
is
star.
actually a star.
And by the way, I just ordered Worlds Collides by Baldusky. And, you know, his theory is that the Earth, he thinks at one time was a moon of Saturn.
Yes, I've heard that as well, that the Earth was initially one of the planets of the Saturn system. And the
Yes.
Saturn system came into the solar system many, many years ago, and it moved things around, and the sun captured planet Earth. Apparently, all the planets were in a line aligned with the rings of Saturn
That's what yes, thank
at
you.
one time. Yeah, I've definitely heard that story, and it's very plausible because Saturn is definitely a star. It's actually a stronger star than Jupiter.
Thank you.
Wayne, is that where is that? That's on the northern hemisphere,
Yes,
the northern pole.
Yep, we're looking down. Yep.
Yeah, I saw some of the images of this, but not as clear as this a while back. And, you know, one thing I wanted to touch on, if you notice that, you know, astronomers and astrophysicists and scientists, it seems as of lately, the last couple of years, you know, they talk more about deep, deep space beyond our solar system. But what about learning about our solar system first? You know?
There you go.
Exactly. I keep
Let's be
saying,
honest here.
please look at the sun, but they will look anywhere but the sun.
But the
You know
sun.
why? Because they don't want to talk about what's there.
Here's another, you know,
Everything.
so I am hip to what mind control is. I am also hip to what suggestions can do. I was a master at that. I taught sales and the psychology of sales. And I'm telling you, Claudia and Scott, they're prepping us for something.
Oh,
This-
there's no doubt, man. It's
this is the-
pre-programming all the way.
Yep. This is the fourth article that has come out in the last 10 days. Exoplanet twice the size of Earth. Now they're saying, you know, 145 light years, but it continues on this track. Here's another one.
Yes,
NASA's-
and you know why, Wayne? Because I believe the sun is now at a stage where it's getting very weak, very weak. But don't forget, our sun is attracting the stellar cores. What do you think will happen when our sun is not attracting them that strongly anymore? Where are they going to go?
No, that's a good point.
They are going to go to the planets. They are going to start destroying the planets.
I mean, one big misconception, and I've had this conversation with so many people before, you know, it's like the saying goes with aliens. We're not alone out there.
We're not.
Well, neither is our solar system. You know, there are stars that make our sun look like a grain of rice.
Yes.
There are planets out there that make Pluto or Jupiter look like a grain of sand. So we don't know what's out there. But I'll tell you this much, you know, I've been doing my own reading, a lot of it, and I've been studying these hypervelocity stars, these hypervelocity planets that get flung out of the center of our galaxy at hypervelocity speed. And
Interesting.
they can travel for millions, billions of years in one direction until that direction is impeded by something else. Or if it's a star or a planet And let's say, for instance, it is coming in close proximity to another star that has a massive magnetic field. Well, what happens? Next thing you know, those two stars or that planet is now joined in a rotation around that star. So, I'm no astrophysicist, but I'm not stupid either. I understand the dynamics of what we're talking about. It's a very, very interesting subject. And, speaking of interesting subjects, after you're finished, I want to show you something that I caught on the SDO today. And I've got some very, very big questions about it because it clearly shows two objects going past the camera. One of them is the moon. What is the other one? But I'll show you later on.
Yeah, I saw that, and there's always the controversy on that, but I still say it's how do you do reverse? How do you retrograde? Claudia,
exactly.
The question I have for you, Pluto, planet or not?
Well, I always believe that Pluto is a planet. And the definition of a planet to me is an object that is alive. That is, it has a core and it generates energy in its core. And we know that Pluto is not a dead planet because as it moved further away from the sun, it became hotter, which means that it has an active core and is producing its own energy.
Thank you. I happen to think that as well.
Good. We agree.
Okay, talking about Jupiter. This article came out. This is, by the way, Carnegie Science. This guy has really done a good job on this. Claudia, how do you get moons that are retrograding against, well, now 60 different other moons in the other direction? How does that happen?
Yeah, I read this article. I didn't understand it.
The thing is, what we have here is that Jupiter is acquiring new objects. When objects are newly acquired, then they can move in opposite direction to the objects that have been there for millennia. And the same thing is happening with the solar system. New objects are moving in very strange orbits right off the ecliptic plane. These are newly acquired objects that are coming from outside the solar system. And Jupiter has acquired lots and lots of new moons. I think it used to have 16 moons. Now, I don't know, it has over 70.
Oh, this article here said that they're adding more and more to it all the time.
Yeah, 79.
79.
Yeah.
And the fact that they retrograde shows you that they are absolutely newly acquired objects. And also they are stellar cores, because stellar cores do not quite obey the laws of gravity that we know have gotten used to in the solar system, because they come from outside. They're different.
Yeah, I think we went from what, 66 or 67 moons, and just in 1 year or what, 9 months, we go from 67 to 79.
Yeah.
So my point is, Dr. Albers' theory on the sun capturing a stellar core, well, if Jupiter's doing it, why can't our sun?
I happen to
our
agree.
sun is attracting the largest of them. I think actually the sun is attracting all of them. They come to the sun, they absorb energy, and then the sun ejects them outwards. And when they are ejected, especially the smaller ones, will get further from the sun and can then be captured by one of the planets.
And that would be Jupiter.
Yeah.
That would be Jupiter. Well, I just thought you might enjoy that. I mean, those were just some of the articles that I brought up that, seem to be relevant. And then you sent your papers, and I have those pulled up. And since you wrote these, I figured you could be the one which one did you like to? I thought this one is a very interesting one.
Oh, yes, that one.
Yes.
Yeah, this was based on an article that Scott actually found, which was a transcript of a meeting between the Secretary of Defense, William S. Cohen. And this is from 1997, where they start talking about the kind of weapons that terrorists might have, and therefore they have to prepare for it. but wait a minute, what kind of weapons are they? And we can read here. You see,
is it this one?
Ebola virus kind of weapon. And then we have pathogens that can target specific ethnic
groups
and races, and sort of engineering some sort of insects that can destroy specific crops, eco-type terrorism, whereby they can alter the climate, set off earthquakes, volcanoes remotely through the use of electromagnetic waves. They knew exactly how to do it already. But they say terrorists, but wait a minute, what kind of terrorist would use a weapon on other people that would be mistaken for nature? I mean, terrorists want people to be terrified. That's why they're called terrorists. No one would be terrified. People would think it's nature. Something horrible is happening to us. So they wouldn't use these weapons. It's not a weapon of terrorists. It's the weapons they were developing.
Yes, this is control. This is control.
Yeah.
You know, and this just goes to prove our point. For all of you people out there that think we are some type of nut conspiracy theorists, you're looking at the United States Department of Defense, William S. Cohen, in this bulletin. And this is what they were talking about. And this information came directly from the Department of Defense website. And it's still there, and you can find it if you do your homework. So there is absolutely no doubt whenever you start talking about chemtrails, people say, oh, you're crazy. Oh, really?
Wow.
Okay. They are doing it. They are doing this worldwide. You know, a few weeks ago, I did a video based on a brand new movie that came out this past June, this summer. It was called The Domestics. It was kind of like a Mad Max in the Thunderdome, but, you know, a 2018 version of it. The beginning of the movie opened up with big, gigantic U.S. military jumbo jets in formation, spraying black chemtrails over the population and people dropping dead like that.
Yeah.
I did my video on that, and about, I think it was 3 weeks later, I get a notification from YouTube that once again, they have banned one of my videos worldwide. Why'd they do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's allowed to be placed in a movie, but you're not allowed to make the connection is actually reality. But what I go on to explain here is that pollution from the burning of fossil fuels places dust in the atmosphere, which become cloud condensation nuclei, around which the water that evaporates off the oceans and the lakes and so on would then condense into droplets of water and produce clouds. But these cloud condensation nuclei are too small. So the smog, this pollution, creates droplets of water that are too small to ever fall as rain. So it actually stops rain.
Wow. Does that mean that it's up in the atmosphere then and just...
Exactly. So they had to either stop burning fossil fuels or come up with another way to produce clouds. They had to actually add to the water vapor in the atmosphere a lot more. So what they did was they made sure that all power stations where fossil fuels are being burned had cooling towers where a lot of steam could go into the atmosphere. And then they pre-programmed these in order to create the cloud formations that then give us rain. So for more than 100 years, our weather systems have been manipulated as a result of the burning of fossil fuels, because they didn't want to stop that because they're making too much money out of burning fossil fuels.
Yeah, hello, Tesla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they came up with other ways more recently that through lasers or electromagnetic waves, you can actually heat up the atmosphere or the ionosphere. You can create currents. And it's these currents that actually create the the weather systems. For example, a hurricane, if you hit the ionosphere enough, you produce a current that a high current in the ionosphere, which loops around, and that creates a hurricane underneath it. And then if you heat it up some more and you move the laser along, you actually move the weather system along. So not only can you create that weather system, that severe storm, you can control it. And you can move it wherever you want. You can create high pressure systems by causing a current in the opposite direction.
You know, when you were talking just now, Claudia, what I was seeing in my mind's eye, when I was a kid, we used to have this game where you could take up the magnetic filings and with a magnetic pencil, and you could pick up those and you can make pictures out of them. So what I'm seeing here is that if I had a laser that had a low pressure system coming in, I could basically use this plasma technology, which they have in space. They've invented that, and basically just let it follow where I want to take it.
Exactly. This is exactly what they are doing. This is why I first realized that there was an intelligent control behind the paths that the hurricanes were following when I observed Harvey last year, because it moved out into the Gulf again, and then it moved back. And the only way a hurricane can do that is if it's under intelligent control. A hurricane doesn't behave like that naturally. Move backwards and forwards. It's impossible. It means it was under artificial control. And don't forget, there would be no rain at all if they weren't adding water vapor to the atmosphere. So now, why do we have all these hurricanes coming off the coast of Africa? First of all, they have to have these steam-producing platforms, either on the ocean or just inland, that produces enough steam in order to produce the weather systems.
Exactly. It's all desert.
Yeah, they producing it all from beginning to end. They controlling them. They hitting the countries. East Asia has been hit by typhoons over and over and over again. The same thing's happening to the United States. Basically, I think at the moment, it's not so much lives, it's an economic war. They are trying to economically destroy these countries.
I believe that. That does follow an agenda. So these are some of the platforms that, now this is interesting. Is this from a patent?
Yes, this is, something that they envision, but it's not just envisioned. They have them out there.
I'll guarantee you they've already done the intellectual, patenting of the whole idea. This is fascinating.
Yeah, and then they can, of course, produce earthquakes and volcanoes, because earthquakes can be produced through electric fields. I'm not saying all of them are electrical. Some can be gravitational, but wherever you have gravity, you have the electrical interaction anyway. But you can definitely produce earthquakes by simply inducing currents underground. An earthquake is basically thunder underground thunder, underground electrical discharges. And that's why you often see these light effects just before an earthquake. And this is why you also have lightning. This is basically molten rock there, but yet you see lightning within it. The same thing happens underground. This came from underground. Underground, you get the same thing. That's what causes earthquakes, these discharges often.
And I think another thing, when I was looking, I looked at some file footage. My wife and I just had our 7th wedding anniversary on Sunday, and we were married in Hawaii.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And we actually rented a helicopter and went up to the volcano and saw the lava lake and the whole thing. And as the land has now dramatically been altered, the volcano that we saw is not the same volcano. The floor is now collapsed to over 2,000 feet. My point to this is, Claudia, is that the rock, the molten rock coming up, had the magnetic signature of, I think they said almost, 18,000 years ago?
Wow.
So that got me to thinking, does the magma hold the magnetic or magnetic signature? I guess I'm kind of thinking, when I see electrical activity, I always get
Well,
to.
actually, what happens is it's kind of a circular argument where they say, well, the way the rock is aligned, you can actually see little alignments in the rock, and you can say, oh, this was aligned in the way that the Earth's magnetic field was a certain time ago.
Okay.
Okay, so they've calculated, but it's a kind of a feedback loop, because they use the rock to determine what the magnetic field was like, say 20,000 years ago. And now they're looking at the rock and they're comparing it with rock, and they're saying, well, this is the way it was 20,000 years ago. Now, it's a little bit like what they do with evolution. In other words, they say, oh, this is the way evolution took place because this is how the strata is layered. And then they say, oh, but this animal was in the evolution first because that's the way the strata is. They do this.
I once heard someone say,
arguments.
That's voodoo economics.
Yeah.
I digress. Okay. Well, I was trying to get down now. I guess Secretary Cohen made a note, right, on this briefing. Do we have that here?
Yeah, I mean, I actually got it from the website, and it's still there. You can just follow the link. You will see it.
Okay.
Now, so this is about what happened in 1997, and that was Edward Teller, the father of the atom bomb.
Ah.
And in 1997, he started talking about chemtrails and how they were going to be used to reduce global warming. Well, that was a complete lie, because chemtrails actually increase the greenhouse effect. You need low reflectivity particles in the atmosphere in order to decrease the greenhouse effect. But chemtrails are high reflectivity particles. They're shiny, so they actually increase the greenhouse effect. Of course, they want that because our sun is weak and we need to retain heat. But they weren't about to tell us the truth. But there are other things they wanted to do with all these chemtrails, and they are mentioned there. So storm creation and modification, fog and cloud creation, precipitation or rain enhancement, precipitation denial. In other words, they're creating the droughts. And then artificial creation of space weather. Even the space weather can be artificially created. So in other words, the images, SDO images, can say, oh, there should be a CME coming. But if it's an old image, or if it's, an image from years ago, it doesn't matter. We can just create the effects of a CME impacting our magnetosphere. And we can create artificial aurora as well.
And what they find a new color this year on the aurora, which I thought was really interesting.
Okay.
How do you get new colors? I don't know how that happens.
Yes, that's very interesting. Well, that can be two things. Either they have a new method of creating the aurora, or more likely we have a lot of stellar core dust coming into our atmosphere. As I mentioned, it started in 1850. That's when noctilucent clouds were first observed. We know they didn't have the technology to produce that then, so we know it was a real effect. And I think it's the noctilucent clouds have evolved into more advanced. They come closer down to the surface. We have lots of clouds that are emitting. It's not normal. And so I think that the stellar core dust is producing a lot of effects in the atmosphere. So here's the patent that actually shows. This is where I got the information that chemtrails actually increase the greenhouse effect. This was from this patent, which is from 1991.
Yeah, I was thinking
How
that.
How old this technology really is.
Look at this.
Yeah, and they use the words chemtrails. There are a lot of different features to these chemtrails, like Dr. Albers was saying. Yes, we all think that they obscure our view of what's actually up there, but they are literally trying to possibly either deflect radiation or keep heat into the earth. And, I've been studying what's happening up at the North Pole. And, Wayne, you should definitely put that into your mix and start studying what's happening up at the North Pole. It is one of the most tragic things that's happening to this planet right now. And in a very, very short amount of time, we are going to see about a 17-degree difference in our jet stream. Okay, it's actually going to sink even further and become even more erratic. And when that starts to happen in a very, 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 very short amount of time, we are going to have problems on this planet like no one has ever seen before. And that's going to be created just simply by the jet stream. And again, mark my words, as we're here on this live stream, this is what you're going to be looking at. And there is absolutely nothing that we can do about it. I don't think that man actually has this technology to solve this issue. It's just too immense. And it's going to change this earth forever. And people just don't get it. It's happening now. I mean, there is almost no ice in the North Pole.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah, well, that's what happens because there's no natural weather on our planet anymore. And without the sun, actually, because our sun is so weak now, if it's shining at all, there is no heating of the equator. So there's no difference between the equator and the pole. So of course the poles would warm up in comparison with every other region on Earth, because there's no difference anymore in the amount of heat that the poles are getting in comparison with the equator. Okay, so
can we address this here, Claudia?
Yes.
The laser
So
beam,
what I talk about here is the fact that they can produce fires with their laser weapons. And this is what you see here. You can see the straight line. The light is a straight line. That has to be a laser. No other kind of light would produce a narrow beam, a collimated beam like that. It's a laser. And the laser is obviously causing that fire. Now, how do these lasers work? The lasers actually can work at different frequencies. And a material has what's called a resonant frequency. So if the laser light impacts that material at the resonant frequency for that material starts heating up at a huge rate. All the particles vibrate at that resonant frequency. And so the temperature of the object just spikes until it ignites or vaporizes, and very quickly. And this actually starts from the center, because on the outer edges, there's some loss of that heat. But at the center of the object, that's why we often see these objects burning from the inside, and why we sometimes see wood right next to steel. The wood is untouched, the steel has melted.
I actually found a house, a couple of them up in the Sierras, where these fires just seem to continue to go. Literally, the structures were cut in two.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's lasers. They're using lasers, and there they are mounted on these aircraft. These are directed energy weapons. These are either plasma or laser beam weapons mounted on aircraft. They also mount them on satellites.
Look at the size. I mean, this is for you get the cockpit right here, folks. It gives you some sort of idea the size of these weapons. I mean, that's what I'm just going to call them. I mean,
they are weapons.
I don't know what else you
exactly. I mean, they've used these weapons on citizens. Okay, let's go back to some of the wars in the Middle East. Did we ever hear about these laser weapons being used to terminate these terrorists? No, they're just using bombs, dropping bombs on them. But don't you think it would be a lot easier to just zap them, zap their missiles, zap their camps with this technology? No,
Well,
they're using it on man. They're using it on mankind.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because the war is not between the armed forces or military or terrorists or Islamic forces or whatever. The war is on the population. That's why in the Middle East, they use depleted uranium shells for their weapons. Why? Because they fire the bombs and they leave the radiation lying on the ground because of the shells, depleted uranium. Sometimes not even depleted, it's just uranium.
Yeah,
this is big. I've just done some calculations. So we're looking here at approximately about a 6'5" opening. You pull it over to here. This is a big.
It's big.
Yeah, it's very.
Oh yeah, it's massive. And if you take a look at what they have affixed to satellites, that's why there should be no war on the ground. These countries do not need actual armies. They can take care of everything right up in space. The Chinese have these weapons. The Americans have these weapons. The Russians have these weapons. The UK has these weapons.
The Chinese are already using it on our pilots. So, it's been a huge problem. Scott, you had something, this hour is come and gone. Claudia, I swear, I tell people all the time, I said, tune in. I said, because you'll learn about time travel. Because an hour is not an hour. An hour is about 10, 15 minutes. And, we look and boom, it's all over with. So, Scott, right before we get closed out here, you said you wanted to show something from Soho?
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and pull it up here real quick.
Are they going to say that this is the eclipse season again? I thought that only happened.
Yeah,
what is it, November and April or March?
No, they didn't even show it this time. They just don't show the images for that time anymore. That's it.
They know we got hip to that. Is that what you're saying?
Fortunately, I've collected plenty of data that shows exactly what's occurring.
So what you got there, Scott? I think you can take control.
This piece of video, I was just going through my routine this morning and checking out these coronal holes that have been inducing these massive earthquakes. And then again, hey, the government may be inducing these massive earthquakes that have hit over the last couple of weeks. But I always do my routine and I'm always checking it out. And, I'm used to seeing the moon pass in front of the SDO camera. But this time, there's not one object going this way and another object going this way. So I wanted to make sure that what I was seeing was true. So the moon is the second object that you're going to see in the video, and it will come up from this way. But what's coming down first? It's not the moon because it happens rapidly. Now, I went on Solar System Scope, checked out where the SDO is positioned, the rotation of the moon around the Earth, and the object that comes up like this is the moon. But the first object that comes down is not the moon. So how could the moon do that in less than 48 hours, in less than 24 hours? I haven't figured it out, but
no, it's impossible. It's impossible.
Exactly. Let me just share this.
It can't be the moon, it's something else.
It's an hallucination.
Yeah. So I have this looping. And you can see that, right? And I slowed it down. So that was the first object. Now here comes the moon. Now it happened so fast that you could miss it.
Yeah.
But what is that for? Here's the moon. The moon's coming up. But what is that?
Hmm.
Then the moon comes up. Now I've got the correct positioning of the moon. That was simple. But, you know, there is no object that we know of in our solar system that would be passing by in that downward motion. Now, Venus is off to our left in this positioning, way off to our left, nowhere even near the view of this camera.
Yeah, you must send me these images so I can calculate the radius of this object from the image.
That's what I was saying, Claudia. This one looks bigger.
Make sure. Maybe the Earth has 2 moons. I have postulated that probably has more than 2.
The Hindus actually believe that the dark moon has come back in, and I may be not quoting it with the Hindus, but the belief is that there is the dark moon there now. There is a another object.
The second object, which you say is the moon, seems larger than the first, or that could be to do with where.
I thought the first one looked larger. Look how it comes down.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, the moon comes upward. Whatever this object is, it passed downward first.
Oh, okay. So the moon is the one that moves upwards.
Yes, that's the moon. So on the 9th at 2100 hours, and then at 1:30, that comes up. So we're talking about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Well, how would that be the moon? That's impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible. It can't be the moon.
Now, I slowed this down. You know, if you watch it on the 48-hour loop, it zips by so fast. But, you know, I mean, I've been watching this video footage for so many years.
But there is something else. And the thing is, I actually realized that there's probably not one SDO spacecraft. There are 2.
That's interesting.
Because that's the only way that we wouldn't see the real SDO eclipse. And they would then show us the fake one, pretending that it's the real one. Of course, they play these games, you know. They show us the truth. And then they tell us that it's not possible.
Yeah, and if you look at the angles of this, the larger one that comes down first comes down from way up above. And then the moon passes at a different angle from the bottom. Okay. And you know, I mean, we know the angle of the moon's rotation with the Earth. So that was correct. That bottom object is the moon. I mean, I pinpointed it exactly. But this thing that's coming down completely eclipses the sun within this view.
Yeah.
And as you see the moon coming upward, you're only catching a small piece of it.
Yes.
But this object completely almost takes out the entire sun in this view.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know what it is. I'm sure there is a group of debunkers out there that will tell us one thing. And
they always do.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'd like to examine these images. You must send them to me, Scott.
Absolutely not. I refuse. Yeah, no problem. I slowed this down. I slowed this down considerably because this is the first time that I've seen a double object on the SDO like this. You know, I'm always seeing the moon. I get, 1,000 emails just about every single month. Oh my God, what just passed in front of the SDO? And, 99.9% of the time it is the moon. But this time we've got one object coming up and one object coming down within an hour and a half to 2 hours of each other.
Well, Claudia, you'll take a look at this, right? This is.
I definitely will. I'm very interested.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Very interesting. And we've actually captured
calibrating. Yeah.
I don't know about that calibrating thing.
I don't either. I mean,
I don't know how the moon could switch directions like that.
Well,
No. There's no way SDO just changes direction from like that. That's impossible.
Yeah, because you see the sun
spin.
spinning upside down.
Well, you would see the spacecraft as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're
I mean, you actually would have to use huge amounts of fuel to change its trajectory, and basically it could crash if you even try a maneuver like that.
Yeah.
It's very, very tricky. You cannot just change a satellite from moving in one direction to moving in the opposite direction. There's no way you can do that.
Dr. Albers, I think when you have time to analyze it frame by frame, I think we're going to get a surprise in that.
The only thing I could suggest is that they showed us images from one of the SDO satellites, and then they showed it to us from the other one. That's possible.
Hey, I wanted to show you.
Like I said, I think there are at least two of them.
I wanted to show you one more clip from the International Space Station and the sun simulator that I captured this morning.
All right, cool.
I wanted to show you this real quick. So just check this out. Let me back this up a little bit and oops. And this is in live time. So how is that our sun?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, let's be realistic here. That object in the upper left-hand corner is supposed to be 93 million miles away. And
but it's right above the Earth.
And it's being videotaped by, I think, one of the Russian cosmonauts. And they quickly shut this off again. Okay, this is 2 weeks in a row that I've captured that. Me and Dr. Albers did a full live stream on last week's capture. But I've just got this gut feeling that this is one of the Russian cosmonauts on the space station that is showing this. I don't know why I think that. It's just a gut feeling, especially after the story that just came out
about saboteur.
So here's an up close version. Here I zoomed into it, and I converted this to 4K high definition. So what? The sun's right on top of the Earth?
Exactly.
Yeah, I've looked at this so often.
Either this is like a satellite right above the Earth emitting that light, or this is actually filmed in a studio, and that's a light bulb.
They'll shut us down for that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I just grabbed this footage. Oh, first thing this morning. I don't know. It was very early, and I jumped on there and I wanted to check it out. And you notice though, whenever they get to this point on the space station, they only allow it to be seen for a very short amount of time. Mm-hmm. And then it goes black. It fades to black.
Mm-hmm.
Standard operating. Yeah.
Standard operating procedure.
Exactly. As they used to say in World War II, situation normal, all messed up. Well, folks, again, this has been exciting. Dr. Albers, Scott, thank you. Again, give us the website for your group.
It's www.mfamediagroup.com. The website's not live yet.
Okay.
We're still, Kim's still working on it, and she's got her plate pretty full on a daily basis with her career. She definitely has her plate full. Mm-hmm. And I would say in about 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be rolling it out. And, if you welcome me back, I'll come on the show.
Sure, absolutely. You're always welcome.
We can do a little preview on it. And I have a brand new little channel on there, all warming up for you.
Well, thank you, sir. And Dr. Albers, do you have a new book out?
Oh, yes.
Could you please? Yeah, absolutely. I put the link in there.
Oh, yeah.
There it is. Now, folks, I'm telling you.
It's our seventh book, right, Scott?
The seventh book.
Number 7.
I think number 7 is significant. I'd like to see the sales go up on the book, because this is how we can help support Dr. Albers and her work. Folks, let's remember, this is a professional who's paid the price for her beliefs.
Yeah.
And that is worthy of our support, our admiration. And the best way we can do that is to be able to buy her works so that you have a copy of it.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, our book sales haven't been too bad. I get a lot of emails and inbox messages from people that have read them, and it gives them more time to concentrate on the material and actually learn it and understand it.
Yeah,
which is good. There's only so much that you could learn from a video, but if you're sitting there and you're reading it and you're looking at the diagrams and the pictures, and then you could go back and you could check it out again. And I think people are getting a better understanding of actually what's happening by reading these books. And one other thing before we end, once again, Dr. Albers and I, we were in a local Walmart, doing some shopping. And I was standing in the in line to pick up some cold cuts, some lunch meats. And lo and behold, once again, I have a complete stranger tap me on the shoulder and say, "Excuse me, but where did you get that shirt?" And I said, "I make them." And, lo and behold, this is an older woman, maybe early 50s. And
that's not old, Scott.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm 50. But this happens. I know,
I'm just teasing.
This happens to me frequently. And a lot of people, like these little troll babies that are on YouTube and Facebook, and they say, "Oh, you're capitalizing on this. Oh, you make so much money with these shirts and blah, blah, blah." Look, we make a small fraction on these shirts. But these shirts are walking billboards. They have designs on the back. They have designs on the front. And I make several, new ones every single week. But they're walking billboards. They strike up the conversation. So instead of ordering my, pepperoni lunch meat and my mozzarella, I'm into a complete conversation with this woman. And everybody else is
Claudia, I think what we ought to do a shirt with the Physicist and Philosopher.
I think you're right. I'll design the logo.
Sounds good.
I think that, how many in here will buy that? I'll tell you what, why not? And
$21.99. I mean, look, some people have half that amount sitting in the cup holder in their car in change.
Are you kidding me? I just found my Christmas presents.
Yes. That's wonderful.
I think that's a good idea. So I think we ought to do that.
I'll run the design by you. I'll actually work.
I'd love to do that. Let me tell you, the time is coming, folks, where Dr. Albers is going to begin to get recognition. And, we'll look back on these days and just realize what a jewel we actually had. So let's do that. So I think we ought to do the Physicist and Philosopher. I think that is perfect. All right. I'm all for it. Hey, listen, and if they want to come troll me, I will convert them. So, all right. Scott Sion, thank you, sir. Dr. Albers, thank you, madam. It's always a pleasure. I just admire you two so much. And thanks, everyone in the chat room. We've had a full crowd tonight. Just spectacular. This show is getting more and more recognition, and it's because of the folks out here. We thank you, free thinkers. Please support Planet X News. Please support our Planet X physicist. And folks, we'll see you then next Friday night. All right, everyone, be good to yourselves. We'll
take care, everybody.